kind of should be the end of the conversation.
I'm gonna put it right here. Thank you for
letting
letting
me.
me
So, the video from Principal Zane, which she outlines it, there's an opportunity to like have a conversation, ask questions like before that June 3rd meeting. So, like it's a good homework for us to come in prepared for June 3rd to be able to make that decision.
It can't all be solved in that period, but knowing that we can amend it, that's what it is. We cannot bend greater district. So, yeah, I'm not ahead of code.
Yep.
Are we back on YouTube?
Oh, we're back, yeah. Nice. Okay. Any other questions for that? Okay, so the next item is budget, the internal accounts. Lori actually distributed that last time for March. My apologies for wrongly mentioning that in last month's internal accounts line. So
I'll make a motion to approve internal accounts for the month of March.
and I'll second. Any discussion? Is there anything for you, Lori?
We haven't received it yet.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Transfer of funds?
There's no transfer of funds right now.
Thank you. Next item, community group reports. So I shared the reports from FOP. We didn't get one from PSO, but I think there were some updates in the last more. REP sent one, and I shared as well for inclusion, and Peirce Pride Caregivers also shared their report earlier today. Moving on to community reports, Ms. Fabianski sent out the PPLC report. Did folks receive it? I got it, but I don't know if she only sent it to me. If you didn't, I'll go ahead and forward.
I can just share.
Yeah.
We just met briefly, the budget was announced, and let's talk about, we just talked about possible platforms that are being currently used that we're interested in using next year. Again.
Thank you. We got an update from BAC as well. BAC's our superstar. They sent it without us asking, or before us asking, so thank you for doing that, Sonia. Equity committee, we have quite a few things, if you want to.
Yeah, I can just kind of briefly summarize, this is our first year that Equity Committee had a new format, where we host 3 equity forums a year, by our new bylaws, as per new bylaws, and opened up the committee, reduced the barrier to entry, so folks are welcome to join. We've got more spots, for anybody who wants to join the Equity Committee. So we hosted 3 forums this year: Black student success, parent groups, and LGBTQ plus inclusivity. We appreciate everybody who volunteered to pull those off. It was great. We've already seen some of the outcomes of these conversations and meetings. We had district speakers at 2 out of the 3 of those events. So we're going to continue to build on this format. We'll be sending around a survey just to ask folks for feedback on the forums and kind of what they want to see for next year. And we've got a list of ideas. We'll ask folks to chime in on what they'd like to do. We could, do the same 3 topics every year and have an update on them. We also have a lot of other topic ideas in the pipeline, and we'll ask for other ideas as well. So look out for that survey to come, hopefully by the end of the school year.
Thank you. Yeah, we did get a lot of feedback from parents about the forums. I think we're setting ourselves up here like a little bit because people are asking for more and more for them. So just to be clear that this is going to continue happening and rightfully so. Last thing, so thank you. Next item, principal evaluation. I want to thank you all for making the time to come in and discuss or complete the principal evaluation. I did submit the results by May 1st as requested. This is an ongoing conversation, right? So now that the results have been shared, it'll be important for us to kind of continue the work and making sure that the feedback is incorporated or at least addressed. The next one is going to be next year. So I heard a lot of feedback from all of you, specifically around timing and making sure that folks have sufficient time to take a look at the results. This year we got 150 responses total, which is triple what we usually got. The results on the parent survey were, I try to, it's not one-to-one, there's not a one-to-one match between the prior formulas. I would say that they were fairly in line. We also got about the same number of responses from the staff, because there were two surveys that went out, one to the parents and one to the staff. So that was very helpful. So some items for us to work on for next year, setting it up, the timing, and making sure that the process is smoother. Okay, next item is old business. I put in a couple of items here based on the conversations. First one is follow up on CPS presentation on bullying. If you remember, we had folks from CPS come in and give a presentation on those protocols. That was very well received. We shared the deck with folks, and I think it was in the SMORs as well. If not, we can make sure that gets done. One of the things I could not there is possibly, since we're talking about forums, is to have something set up as a discussion, more of a discussion than just a presentation. So, Oliver, Sophia, I don't know.
Yeah, so coming from basically throughout the year, we saw multiple reports, either that we hear from some of the members of the LSC Council, and then also looking at the surveys and the comments from parents. It seems like the bullying was kind of reoccurring, or the talk about bullying was a reoccurring theme throughout both. One idea is that we create some sort of LSC-driven, like an anti-bullying group, where obviously we're not going to be interfering with the school policies and the school review process, but to create a more of a group that will be more of a parent support process guidance, and that's the idea behind it. Provide possibly some sort of a resources, maybe some books or for the presentation to parents if it's needed. And so the idea here is to create a group, and I don't know if it's going to be, we can brainstorm about it, but basically one option is to kind of create it on its own, or maybe part of another group, or kind of under the umbrella of another group. But the idea there is for we to create some sort of liaison between the parents and the school, and give them the right direction if that's needed. I was just going to mention last thing. So the timeline on this is kind of, we want to take the summer to kind of create, or maybe do some little bit of brainstorming and structure this, and then probably once the new 25-26 school year starts, have something more concrete and established.
So is this a plan that we came up with, that we would work, have the parents work with them? Is this something you would like to see happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to
Yes, God, I like to see that. You know what I mean? Initially, I've been saying it's all here, coming, reporting things to the point that something's taking, I don't know if the explanation is not as accurate, which it is, and we, as he just said, there are some people that sit on the LLC that came with something similar or same complaints, and it just, we had this guy to come and talk, and he broke it down, like that was great for what it served to break it down, to make it aware that parents know that there are steps that need to be taken, you know, to do that. But then you feel like it's second phase, because then you have some parents that are unresolved. So it's like no resolution in that sense, because, you know, like I said, the guy that came, I don't remember the stage, came, and he kind of told us this is how it goes, so we would have that idea of what he's done, so it would be like nothing's done. Then we had that doctor came in, gave this wonderful speech, this and that, had strategies that he used to make it, you know, to make it work in the school where he's concerned. Now, we still have these issues, and it's just like I've sat on here and I've been saying, I came up with ideas, saying like, hey, let's get some flyers, and I know that that couldn't have been a hard situation to do, because I see P, I see BAG, I see all the other organizations, the committees, they do things, there's progress, things are happening, things are moving, so we have to sit here and take a lot of time and say, oh, that's not working. Those things are moving well, but the issue of the bullying, that's a huge issue. It's been talked about, discussed, and I'm on the floor, face continue to come. At one point, I feel like I'm just gonna step back, because I felt like I wasn't getting the support that I needed, not just here, but like I'm talking to many parents, and then I see like in Zoom, I'm not getting questions. So I feel like, you know, maybe I just take a step back and start stressing, because I feel like I'm the only parent. A lot of these parents come up and share their stories, and I come here and I sit, and I hear, you know, maybe this is not a place, but I feel like this has got to be a place. This is one of the biggest committees here at the LFC. So I'm not seeing any progress. I know I'm sitting alone when I say that, with so many parents behind saying that there's no progress, there's no solution. The year is almost over. So we still got these kids who've been bullied, we got new kids still being bullied, so they're gonna roll over to the new years. I don't wanna see more people just come and tell us this. We need to see someone actually come and show us what's within CPS guidelines, what's the law, what we can and can't do to get it stopped, because it seems like we just roll it over and talk about, even respectfully sitting on the equity group, so we talk about, like, I'm open to hear everything, because I'm not here for just one thing or one reason, one, you know, but like talking about it on equity, like these are things that were African Americans or Black students go this way and this way, and that was a good idea. I'm not saying I sat there just for that idea. I'm there for everything, but I felt like that subject that setting back with some more emphasis on other things that seem more important for peers. We put more there. I would see that same transparency that's talked about. So I feel like in some communities, we say we're gonna do this, we go and sit and just talk about it, just we talk. Nothing happens. There's no solution, no resolution. There's no answers. Like I said, it was the end of the year. Those kids who go and spend their summer, remember all the bullying they got. The parents remember, and their voices doesn't feel bad. There's no validity to it. Even those stories we're hearing. So something has to be done. So almost to the point, especially from my own personal experience, I feel like, you know what? If I don't get the answers, if it's gonna start for my kids, I'll set for myself. I'll go to more education. I'll say, hey, I did this, I said this, I got it. Everything at home, like literally everything. Might not say it all, but I got it. So I feel like we need to see something really happen. We hear about strategies, where are they? It's gotta be something, and I know it's a huge issue, it's a huge problem. We may have to dissect this. It's not started. We just got a greater problem. It kind of correlates with the grades kids are taking tests. If these kids are continuing to be affected, you're expected to get the best grades. So when I look at the things that you give us, the scores, that this, or this percentage, I don't know, it just goes together. You have these kids still getting this problem, and it's not solved. You're going to keep giving these numbers, and we're just sitting like, how did this number come from? Sometimes when he sees, he asks himself, how did we get to this number? I don't even get it. Just like they say, the blacks are a huge portion of bullying. And I'm starting to feel like, where is this coming from? Where is this dissected? Where is the information coming from? It's like, what I think you guys outside, I don't know how they came up with that number, unless we're not just following some guidelines and put it in, but it all goes together. We can't keep just coming here, sitting, talking, the parents hearing us on the Zoom. We're sitting here, the stories are coming, and these kids are continuing to get bullied. It's only getting worse, and we have cases where they say, oh, that was the case, and you break it down, but that wasn't really qualified to be what we're saying it's bullying, and we have a small number that was on the report. And I was like, where did this number come from? How is it so small? When we keep hearing it, it's such a large group talking about it. So many kids affected. I see so much, I don't know. That plan may be good, and I hope that it's successful, that maybe the parents is like, if the school's gonna do it, and the body of teachers and staff here, and the parents is not on board, it's like confusing to the children, like, well, at home, we can do this and say this, now we come to school, that's not allowed, so I really feel the parents need to be on board, find a way to make it work, it can. I mean, are we gonna come back, these kids back and saying stuff, like, what do you say the kids is happening to already, the new children is happening to? Makes, it sets the stage for even new issues, more cases. These kids that are good bullies, they don't see anything happen, well, set the stage for more. It's just gonna grow large, something has to be done. Like seriously, the same effort that we put in every other community that sits and those things are progressing and moving good, we need the same energy for this bullying, same energy. Hell, that doesn't even take away from the budget, unless we're saying we're gonna bring someone here that's gonna execute, so use the strategy, this is what worked for our school, so let's try this in your school. I don't think that's much from the budget to do something like that. Something needs to be done, and I feel like I say it all the time, and here we are in the school year, and there's no resolution, and the problems that we hear don't even match, you know, at all. They don't match. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. The next item is Cleaner Act. I feel like my apologies for keeping it on there. I just want to
Let's
make
just
sure.
leave it there until it's like open for,
Yeah.
for comment again. Yeah.
Okay. Next item, new business. Number one, a special meeting to discuss the budget.
June 3rd at 5:30 was the date that had the most, members of the council available. So I guess I'll motion to approve June 3rd at 5:30 for the budget session.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor? Thank you. The next item here, policies, procedures, protocols around bulletin boards. And I know Lori you added a.
I shared what we have, the district doesn't have clear guidance around policies, procedures, or protocols with bulletin boards. They had sample language, in the staff handbook that they provide to schools on an annual basis, which is listed, at the end of the principal's report. And then I have what we have included, for staff in our staff handbook. One of the concerns that is raised relates to classroom bulletin boards. It relates to more like a home bulletin board. And so the current, staff handbook does not have any guidance for non-hallway.
How many of those do we have?
Many. They're all from home.
Trying to understand, so there's no guidance, but what's been happening in practice for putting these up and the content?
Staff members are able to put up content based on like themes that are going on in the school or based on the instruction that is happening in the school year. There isn't anything that is like established of like these are things that you can or cannot do.
Questions
From my point of view, my thoughts on this, I think as a council, we're not the appropriate body to either change the policy or bulletin policies or whatever the context or be judges of what's appropriate and not. However, I think it's our responsibility to provide some guidance around policies concerning bulletin boards, and then also making sure that whatever the context is posted meets the school standards, as well as figure out if policies are followed or not. if we don't have enough information to make the determination, and secondly, we have not even seen the boards, we don't know what's on it, and at least I have not seen it, so I don't know. Maybe escalate this to CPS and ask for additional guidance, and clear policy that we
I
understand.
requested that information and they don't have it.
Okay, so my proposal is to leave it on the agenda for the next meeting and gather more information on the policy. And,
So when we received the letter, I reached out to the Office of Local School Council Relations to ask for guidance. And what you pointed out and what you pointed out is what they wrote. Trying to understand what the guidelines are, and the council isn't the appropriate body, but can raise the issue to better work with the principal on official policy being implemented. What I'm hearing is we still need guidance from them. So like, it's a little bit of a circular conversation, like we're being asked to come up with guidance, but we're not provided with guidance to come up with our own guidance. I'm really struggling. I'm not sure.
So I missed the first part of this, so ask for a 10-second version here. So there's a CPS standards policy what's posted in the hallway, right? No, there isn't. There's a policy in the classroom? There's no policy at all. So right now, outside of any local rules, there's no district rule for posting any information anywhere on the property.
Anywhere on the property,
Like if you put a sign outside
I
of the building.
don't know that I need to answer that question.
Okay,
I can answer the question specifically,
okay.
but there's no.
What,
This is what Pennsylvania handed out.
but I want to just be silly here. What if you hang up a poster that's not on the bulletin board? So I think if you break it down really what there's a visual presentation, whether it's on a bulletin board, on a bulletin board, in the classroom, outside of water. So there's a presentation of information, and there's some people who are uncomfortable with what was presented. And then the question is, well, what are the rules? What are you allowed to present? What are you not allowed to present? And it turns out there are no rules. So I think there's two separate things here. One is, well, there's many things the district doesn't think is school. So the school can establish a policy, and I think that's a very simple leadership of any administration. We've got a great number of teachers with a great amount of experience that can weigh in and say, hey, this is our school's policy, and that can be closed. Maybe you can send it up to CPS and say, hey, are we cool with this? But I don't think you need to sit here and just wait for someone to not answer a question and they're not going to. Then the other part which I missed was, all right, some people had some objections. That's just a discussion with what exactly did they object to, and is there something that can be adjusted to remedy that? And I don't think that has anything to do with a policy, that's just someone objected. And I'm assuming before I was here, there was a discussion, or that hasn't happened yet.
So maybe we need to look at the policy not specific to a bulletin, but maybe more broader, how certain political views are.
That just comes down to the school rule, I think, at this point.
Because of the First Amendment.
Yeah, so maybe we have to, we can't violate federal law, but we can still set up policies. And it's the same thing, like, some schools require uniforms and some don't. But that's the school's rules. Different schools have different timetables, it's fine. None of them violate local law or state law or federal law, so we've determined there's no policy. We can write a policy, it's fine. And then there's some folks who have objections.
Apologies for the interruption, but you all don't seem to have the full context because teachers are prohibited from political advocacy within school spaces. And there is a district-wide policy
I'm sorry.
on political advocacy.
Unfortunately, I understand there's public participation. You
Coming
can, please do take advantage of that. We don't want to prevent you from talking, just let's, I just want to make sure.
All right, so we're gonna open an OPE, a public participation section, and go through some more, because, yeah, I don't know all of it, but regardless of any specific incident or concern, we're asking for policy, and the policy is to follow, federal guidelines or whatever. And I think that's a very simple administrative task to establish, here are the rules for the school. Just like, there's an anti-bullying policy, there's a family, there's a handbook of all the rules for families. That's just another chapter of, here's our standard methods of communication. We accept this, we don't accept that, this is the culture that we're raising. That's fine. That's separate from this specific concern. And I think that's an easy thing to solve. Now, we move down and talk about public participation in the specific, which I don't know the details of. All right, I think there's two separate things to solve here. One's very easy, one requires more deeper thought and understanding.
Yeah. Anyone else? Comments? I feel like this is one opportunity for us to try and figure this out. The fact that we are now, issues get brought up all the time. Not having guidance is one thing, but also being told that we are responsible for something without providing what I'll refer to again as guidance is what I'm having a little bit of trouble with. We definitely want to make sure that whatever gets brought up, and that's going back to the bullying stuff that we were talking about earlier, that we know what needs to happen. And what I'm hearing is, like you said, there are two different things. There's things that happen and what our culture is, what our established procedures are. And I felt like I personally felt a little bit unequipped or ill-equipped to even ask you all, what do you guys think we should do? So I do think that there is additional conversations, and like now I'm seeing this, staff bulletin boards, classroom bulletin boards, hallway bulletin boards. I mean, we can keep on going, just like you said, and so I have no answer. It's frustrating. Yeah.
I don't think we can wait for if CP doesn't have a policy or the local school council association doesn't have a policy. It's up to us. This is our community, this is our school, and that's why we're here. So I think it's up to us to partner with the community, partner with the parents, and come up with a policy that makes sense. And if we need to adjust that as time goes, we need to adjust it. But I think this is not the beginning. We cannot solve these issues. These are global issues. These are national issues that have taken down heads of universities. So we just need to equip ourselves. And I think that's coming up with a policy that the community is involved in shaping. So I think the question is, who's in the best position to start drafting that policy? And I'm partnering with principal already. Since these are last meeting of the school year, so having it as a key agenda item for the first meeting next school year makes sense.
I feel like the soccer ball that's stuck in the pipe is a good metaphor. It looks so easy to just get it down, but there's no easy solution.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to kind of continue talking about that. I mean, we have norms, right? Like the whole thing about harm and the whole thing about how we address that. Again, I felt like, okay, here's something that we really don't have as a board, anything to help us with. And meanwhile, people are coming to us to make sure that it gets addressed.
And we're talking about the First Amendment.
The same frustration that the bullying
Yes,
has been brought up many times, right? I think people felt ill-equipped to deal with it because they felt there was no process, there was no, this is what you do when you're in this circumstance, here are the resources, So I think just being prepared for these things, that's our responsibility. And I think it takes a partnership of everyone needs to be involved and have a voice in shaping things.
I think this is an important issue to bring to the board for the board to provide guidance.
Mhm.
Because it can't just be what happens in one school, what happens in one and then what happens in another school. I do think this is the responsibility of the Board of Education to establish clear guidelines to every school in the district.
So who makes that support education?
I think LSC members are in a position to be able to do that.
So what
I've already made my point to the district. And I've requested this, and they're not in that position right now, but it was like at some point they.
So do we need to put a proposal or do we need to,
I think it's more like a resolution. We really need to get together and ask for specifically for guidance. I mean, we talk about the Board of Education and everybody has their own opinion. I don't, yeah. So maybe that's the first place to start, in conjunction or coordination with OLS, so they know that we want to work for this. And
So
this is
the question we need to answer is, okay, we can go to the secret whatever education. I really don't know how to work, right? What if they don't have a policy this year and next year? And
They need to work on development.
I understand that, but while they're working in development, that these issues will keep coming up. What is like, oh, you're gonna say that there's wait for CPS to come up with a policy? That's something we need to answer. Are we gonna wait? It may take 4 years, it may take 10 years. Well, it may not be in the agenda actually to come up with a policy, right? That's one of the decides to run and go change it, right? So that's the question I'm asking, what are we gonna do next year if they don't have a policy? And the teacher or someone else posts something that brings up this same topic again.
yeah, for sure.
That's our 15 minutes.
Second to Tara's point, so possibly then we could, because obviously you don't want to violate any federal laws and all that. So we can't just, this is what I think.
So we can do it alone, but we have to do something. Is essentially what I'm hearing, right? Okay.
I'll just add, like, we have representatives on the Board of Education for the first time now in Chicago history, so those are the folks we could write to. So I would suggest that stronger than individuals reaching out to those representatives would be our LSC as a body writing a letter. So we would have a letter that the LSC then would sign on to as an LSC. Yeah, absolutely. There's public comment, like at the Board of Education meetings, so absolutely, you could go down there as well. If we had a letter from our LSC that we all voted to sign off on, and then like one of us went and like on behalf of the LSC with that letter, that could be one strategy. So we want to sign on to something as a body, we would like, somebody would write it, we'd circulate it, and then we'd vote on it at the next meeting to sign it. And it would just be a majority vote, and then it would be signed as a body.
So who's gonna write it?
Sounds like Eric is doing it. I think if it can be collaborative, like you know, my strength is definitely not starting things like this. But I think it's very important. You know, each one of us has a perspective, and I think if you can, maybe I'll start something in the shared drive and ask all of us to start contributing, and maybe we can agree as a body for. You know, I know we have the organizational meeting, and we have the special meeting, but maybe at one of these two have something that we can at least have a draft of, and you know, I don't think that it needs to be complicated, just what we just talked about. We were looking for guidance, this is what we were looking for guidance, number one, and we want to have our own set of rules.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's people in the building that I'm sure can help us as well. So, Megan, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I can ask you to share this staff to help us with that as well.
So since it's have not been done, obviously, have to respectfully respect the fact that we can do it as a body, all of us together. I feel like the larger number here is better than one person. But myself, I definitely like to go to board of education, maybe ask them, what are your suggestions? What do you suggest? These are the issues over at this school, and maybe ask them, you know, that's just, I feel like going in person is always good, because you can call, or you can do it, if you go in person, I think the board of education for different schools, and I got a lot of, by myself, one as a person, standing there talking to people that I need to talk to, things get done, and I'm just one person, so I'm like, I'm going for myself, I'm going to make it for education, this is getting to be, and like you said, you know, it's like city waiting, we'll just wait for what they're gonna say, so I feel like if we ask people to wait for it ahead of time, so I'm just gonna sit here and wait for them to leave and organize, no, just someone's gonna call, I'm gonna pop downtown, and that's exactly what it is. And, yeah, it's open to listen, and maybe they can guide us and shed some light, and I explain what I explain to them, and, they can lead us in the right direction, because it definitely needs it. You can't keep city playing away and wait 2 years on. There's no resolution. There's kids that will go there's new people, I'm sure there's gonna be more. So, we really can't just keep city playing this way. We're damaging more children, damaging more parents. Voices not being heard, solutions not being, solutions are not here, therefore we don't have any resolution, so. Just cannot keep playing that way, and that's, for me, I'm gonna call them, even if that means it doesn't come there, I'm all for it. Because we need sooner than later.
Could we move to that and that's for that food? I've been to Congress many times, and I tried to put it in the government, and didn't take the time. If we could run a parallel track, advocate for policy, but also would like to see us get started on our policy. So these when we go to Congress, if we have a policy, we would like to see a broader policy. I think that would help us go a long way.
I just saw it, so there's like a lot of.
Sorry, Matthew, do you want more time on this? For like
Maybe a couple more minutes and
how
then
many minutes? Yeah.
2, and then we'll move to further.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, working on our policy, I see there's a lot of schools and universities around the country that do have policies available online, and maybe we can kind of take some samples and see if any of those points maybe work for us as well, and then we can kind of.
I will start the document, and I'll encourage everyone to just put in links, resources. I'm sure we'll hear from the community as well, or at least I'll ask that we get that. What's that?
What network?
We're ISD.
So just clarify what document we plan on.
The beginning of the document to have our own drug policy for Peirce. Next item here, any items that need to be added to the agenda, so I put the special meeting minutes, and then we're gonna resurface this conversation again. Another item that came up, and that was part of the forum that we attended last time. We now have 4 established community groups, FOP, PSO, RAP, and Peirce Pride Caregivers. There's interest in creating a couple more or having other groups. So the question that I was asking is, what is the process for doing so? I didn't really have like a good answer.
The LSC is able to establish committees of the LSC.
But what about community groups, so like FOP or like RAP, for example, that were not part of
Grassroots
the LSC?
organizing.
How do we, if,
CPS has some specific rules about certain ones, like CAC,
Mhm.
CPS
Yeah.
where,
program.
I'm talking about the
But
one
there's
that,
something else that's not one of those programs. And I think it's a good thing, but there's no guidance, and yeah, it's a group of parents. I think the question is, when you have a group of parents that want to interface with the school leadership or anything in the team, we're not one of the things that CPS has guidelines on. You know, we're the chess club or something of that nature. Are there any rules? And it sounds like outside of the specific ones that CPS has said, there aren't rules, and I have no objections, I think it's great. The question is, well, what are the guidelines for establishing it? I don't think there are.
They might not necessarily want to interface with anybody at the school. They might just want to be a part of a community group that's a niche interest inside of Peirce. Peirce is a huge tool.
So specifically, so Peirce private caregivers, for example.
Yeah. How did it start? I think it was a grassroots, just one parent, one other parent.
Right, but now it's part of our agenda. So how do other groups become part of the agenda to provide reports or to
Just write us an
participate in
email.
our?
I mean, there's two parts. The first part is the public participation, and you can ask anything, but it comes down to what's council's policy. We don't have a policy on it. Right now, it's anyone who asks, can I deliver or not be part of the meeting? But I mean, that kind of falls under the purview of a public comment, which is a different spot in the agenda.
It seems like a sustainable way to increase
Yeah.
participation of parents. You can't make it to the meeting, but you're part of a group and you want us to know what's going on in the group.
I think it's more formal than submitting one of the email things. Yes, just, I have no objections to
I like the
anybody
emails.
submitting everything. Oh, yeah, I like it in writing.
Yes.
It's just easier to record, it's easier to do the minutes. But at the end of the day, I have no objections to anybody submitting information to the council as long as it's polite. So,
Could you clarify what type of?
So for example, so Peirce private caregivers was a recent one. There's been, so during the last forum that was incidentally facilitated by Peirce private caregivers, there was a group of parents that came in talking about diverse learners. And they wanted to create, and actually they had created a structural, their own charter. And so I was curious, and because that was the question, what's our process? How do we go about?
okay. So there's two parts. Anyone who do public participation, if you want to be like the regular thing, you just need a template. It's a meeting notes template. It says, here's who did it, here's who when, here's my notes, I'm gonna submit it, and then there's a standard template. Anyone who wants to have committee meeting minutes or notes that thing in a formalized way is beyond public participation. We just need a standard meeting notes template that anybody can support. We just need to say community group versus committee of the council. And that is just there.
Thank you. Any items that folks would like to see added?
So it's the policy added.
Yes, that's correct. That's it. And so it's a template for reporting. Okay. We have now the second public participation. So there's a sign up. So as you sign, you start talking.
Sign and talk. Yeah, I just want to thank y'all for taking action on the anti-bullying and the flip side, positive peer culture. I would love to see movement there. I would love to see that as like an inclusive parent conversation and parent-staff connection. As probably not this one, but I think being able to like dig into specifics and move on some pieces and have some real conversations about like what's happening, what we want to see. And I appreciate this piece also about like what's policy and what's culture. And I think having conversations as a school-wide community about like what culture is and about like resolving age-appropriate peer conflict and how to promote social emotional learning and just like what all of our roles are in that and understanding how different people are approaching those different conversations, whether in scenarios like this or in like broader, I think, community conflict and discussion is like a really productive space. And so really appreciate the LSC taking the lead on that, and I hope that we can parent spaces that will storm. So,
Please, yes. Please feel free to. The only thing is, I'm sorry if it's pedantic, but if you can kind of put your name still on the thing, that's all I'm asking. Please. Comes to.
Anna, again.
Thank you.
Let's do the minutes.
Yes.
Sure. I sympathize with those responsible. I've been there.
I wanted to thank the LSE for the conversation that you dug into. You know, I appreciate particularly mentioning, you know, what is the opportunity for community members to have their experiences heard, because I think that that's something that was missing here, that when this bulletin board went up and harm was done, a group of 20 parents sent a letter to Ms. Amy and to members of the LSC, and nobody reached back out. Nobody reached back out to say, please tell us more about what this experience has been like for you, and for your children and for your students. And so that was disappointing and hurtful. And so we appreciate having this opportunity. I think that, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the gentleman who sent the email that was read earlier, but I think that he would be surprised at how much we, the folks who sent that letter in, would agree with him. That we hope that Palestinian and Palestinian American heritage is represented and celebrated here at Peirce. But we hope that that's done in an age-appropriate way. And in examining this, the outcome or the things that came out of this bulletin board, we did some digging. And to include the words like genocide, and it's funny because this is the first, scholasticide, this is a new word to me, scholasticide in a bulletin board on the second grade hallway is, my background is actually as a teacher, I taught kindergarten and CPS, that's developmentally inappropriate. And one of the ways that we know that CPS and ISB agree with us is because the standard in CPS and in the state of Illinois is that the Holocaust, another example of genocide, isn't taught until 5th grade at minimum, but really in middle school and high school. So I appreciate the struggle that the council is going on. How do you create a policy for what goes up on bulletin boards or in public within the school community? But there are some starting points. One of the starting points is that it is true, it is against school policy, it is against teacher licensure to bring political advocacy into public spaces in the school. That's a starting point. Another starting point is that bulletin boards should follow developmentally appropriate guidance and developmentally appropriate curriculums. It's also true that when we're talking about tough topics, you know, tough things to talk about, we don't generally present those topics in a bulletin board, right? We present them in the classroom with the support of our incredibly talented and sensitive teachers. And that didn't happen here. When this conversation was brought to students, it was brought through the library club by an unlicensed staff member who put together an activity to engage students with the concept of genocide without any, as far as I'm aware, without any administrative approval. And when a student said to this staff member, "This conversation is making me uncomfortable," the staff member dismissed that child's discomfort. The staff member didn't reach out to parents and to say, "Your child mentioned their discomfort, I want to check in and let's follow up," which is something that has been my experience in our many years here at Peirce. Our staff know to do that. Our teachers are incredibly sensitive, but that hasn't been present in this situation.
Thank you.
Should sign my name first. Okay. Thank you all for your time, and apologies, it was a little hard to hear the conversation earlier, so if I missed something. But Andy Friedman, I'm a parent of a kindergartner and a 3rd grader, and appreciate being here, and I appreciate the engagement here. And I just want to add on, you know, a couple things. One, which is, you know, just echoing what Hannah just said in terms of, you know,
the real focus here being on age appropriateness and when we have difficult and hard conversations and how we have them. And I want to flag, I appreciate the sensitivity on who determines what's considered appropriate, because there's a lot of people out in the world right now trying to censor different things that we want to make sure, are talked about. And we also want to make sure we trust our teachers to be able to put content up and have that flexibility, but also just that there's these guideposts around age appropriate content, languages and images. We know that this conflict between Israel and Hamas is one that brings up a lot of emotions. And if Peirce wants students to engage in a conversation about what's happening in the Middle East and about this conflict, that's something that the teachers could talk about doing. And as Ham just said, do it in a way that is appropriate to those age levels, in a way that puts information in front of them they can understand and gives them an opportunity to talk about it. This is obviously something that I will say as a Jewish parent, with our connection to the country of Israel, it's a very difficult conversation we have in our own homes. And how much do we tell our children about what's happening? How do we bring it up in a way that helps them not be scared? My third grader couldn't sleep the other night because she was wondering if there was going to be a war here. And how do we, she doesn't know what that means, right? So how do we delicately have those conversations and talk about identity and what it means to be connected to these things? These are just very complicated things. And so to learn that it was put up on a billboard without any context and without any opportunity for that was just very concerning. And also I know that Peirce is very good about, hey, we're gonna have this hard conversation in the classroom. I want to give you a heads up, right? We get a note home from a teacher, so we're prepared when our kid might come home and ask about it. There was none of those guardrails here. So I think there's just a lot of questions about how, and my understanding, and I don't want to, I think we need a lot more information. Our understanding is this bulletin board was flagged by a teacher who has the training as problematic and harmful and reviewed and then put back up. So I don't know if that's accurate. I'd love more information about that. But I do think that it raises a lot of concerning flags about the process that was or wasn't followed here and how these decisions are made. And we do have the pictures, because somebody said they didn't know what the billboard said. So if you are interested there, we can show it. And just one last thing I'll say, that beyond Gaza and what's happening there, many of the kids here at Peirce, right, might be refugees from a lot of countries with conflict. And seeing pictures like these can really produce other kinds of trauma. So I think there's other concerns here, not just for this conflict in particular, but in how we talk about or show really challenging images to really young children.
Thank you. Thank you very much. While this was going on, James recognized that the YouTube channel went off. I got about 90 messages letting me know that the thing went off. So thank you very much for bringing that up as well.
One, you mentioned that you emailed some of the board members. I assume you did not get an email. Is there one email that we all should be getting?
Yeah, so it's the email that I forwarded to the group.
Okay,
But that's the one that I received, or that we received through the Peirce LSC, and it was sent by
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
So it's the email that goes to you and you forward to the rest.
That's right. I didn't get anything else.
There's 2 letters that came in for public participation when you're ready.
Okay. And so there's YouTube off, question mark. Okay, here it is.
I can.
Public comment. Okay. Dear LSC, I was just watching LSC meeting and wanted to share my perspective on the library bulletin board as a member of the Jewish community myself. I'm the parent of a Peirce student and an active member of the Jewish community in Chicago, and I'm deeply grateful to Peirce for displaying the Arab American Heritage Month bulletin board. A core part of my own Jewish tradition is the long practiced tradition of solidarity with marginalized communities, including and especially Arab and Palestinian communities. And one of the most important Jewish values for my family is the fact that every life is precious, every person is an entire world, and any life lost is the loss of an entire world. This includes, of course, every single Palestinian life that Israel has stolen over the past year and a half of genocide, not to mention the 78 years before that. I am teaching my child this core value, that being Jewish is about opposing injustice wherever we see it, including and especially if it is perpetrated in our name, in the name of Jews. My child knows and should know that a genocide is being perpetrated in Gaza. And I'm very grateful that this fact was recognized at Peirce on the library's bulletin board as part of a wider board full of information about libraries for Arab American Heritage Month. Our school does not exist outside the context of the broader world, and students at Peirce should not be shielded from reality. All my gratitude to Peirce for displaying a bulletin board that recognizes that fact and contributes to Peirce's role in being a community of conscience. And we do have another one.
Sorry, this is my first time raising an LLC, so I apologize for interrupting. But when people put in contributions online, is that accredited to them?
That's right. There's the names. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Maybe I missed it at the beginning.
I can share the name. So the name. So the Peirce parent name is Maya Shenwar.
I'm sorry.
Maya Shenwar.
Oh.
And we just got another one, as Rocky pointed out.
I just want to add to like the meeting notes, like this is all public record. So if anybody was here who like read a statement and you want it like word for word on the public record as opposed to Rocky like paraphrasing it, you can send it and then it'll go in.
That's right.
Just send it to the Peirce email and I can just copy and paste it.
And the YouTube channel exists also. It's like Peirce LSC. I mean, that's where we save those. They're all there. So to this bad hair day, but it's going to be there for posterity is what I'm trying to get to. So we have another one that just came through. Dear local school council members, I'm writing as a Peirce parent to express concern about the objections raised at today's local school council meeting regarding the Arab American Heritage Board display near the library. Some have claimed that the content is inappropriate for younger students, particularly those in second grade, because such topics aren't addressed in the curriculum until middle school. But this concern does not reflect the lived experience of many of our families, especially those raising children who are already asking difficult questions about the world around them. Many of our students come from homes where conversations about war, displacement, racial injustice, and global inequity are not only present, they're unavoidable. These realities deeply shape our children's lives, and many have directly experienced or been impacted by these injustices. Their understanding comes not only from conversation, but also from what they see in the news, witness in their communities, and perceive in the eyes of the adults who care for them. Our children, mine included, ages 5 and 7, are already hearing about what's happening in Gaza during our daily drive to and from school. They see their parents grappling with grief, anger, and heartbreak as we witness an ongoing genocide and humanitarian crisis. As of today, it has been 585 days since the start of the war in Gaza. More than 14,000 children have been killed, according to international organizations. Entire neighborhoods have been leveled, most schools have been destroyed or repurposed, wiping out the physical space of learning and intellectual cultural life of an entire generation. I'm trying to read as quickly as I can. This is not a political statement. It's a reality that Arab American, Muslim, and globally conscious families are trying to make sense of. The board reflects those realities. It's an expression of identity, grief, resilience, and desire to help our children understand the world around them. At Peirce, we're proud to be an IB school. That means we're committed to nurturing caring principles and open-minded students who seek to understand the world and take action for a more just and peaceful future. The board invites students to inquire, to think critically, and to engage with the world, not to turn away from it, shielding our children from these who undermine that mission. I want to express my strong support for Principal Zinni, the teachers, and the librarian who are facilitating these important conversations at Peirce. Their effort to provide a safe and thoughtful space for students to explore complex global issues embody the essence of what that education should be, helping young minds develop a deeper understanding, awareness of the world. At a recent Peirce Pride Caregivers meeting, the CPS representatives shared that CPS schools are for everyone. That includes families who are processing loss, asking hard questions, and seeking dignity and understanding within their school community. That includes students who are ready to learn what it means to stand with others in time of injustice. I welcome the opportunity to discuss this further in a forum that fosters real dialogue, where all students and families at Peirce feel seen, valued, and respected. I also urge the council to ensure the Arab American Heritage Board remains in place as a reflection of our shared values: inquiry, inclusion, global awareness, and human dignity. With appreciation. And I think there was one more.
Was there a name to that person?
Yes, one of them. This was Hannah Mahmoud.
Hello, my name is Katie Thur. I am the parent of a fourth grader at Peirce. It's hard to believe he's already fourth grade. I just want to echo what everybody else was saying, that one of our main concerns was just the developmentally appropriate language and photos that were used in the bulletin board. What was also upsetting to me was the lack of response from the administration when we reached out about this issue. I will say now that some of us are going to be meeting with Principal Zinni and another member of the school board.
Member of the ISB office.
Yeah. So, looking forward to that.
Thank you very much. All right. I see no more emails, and I'm checking also one of the emails came to my own emails. That's just to make sure. Okay.
Can I just add a comment just for context? There's 4 people on the board had personal experience war and combat. So they're folks who do have understanding of context, and I personally served in his home country. So it is being received from folks who do have an understanding, and I definitely appreciate that. The basic comment of age-appropriate education is what I'm taking away more than anyone's opinion in any particular topic. It's age-appropriate. That's no comment.
Thank you.
And I think what's the status of the bulletin right now? Is it up?
My understanding is was up for during Heritage. I'm sorry, Arab Heritage Month, and it's no longer. I was on the second floor the other day. I did not see it.
Sorry, it was Arab American Heritage Month is the month of April, so it was up from April 1st to April 30th.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware, so that's why I'm curious if it's still up. Obviously, we need to make actions, but this is not, so that's
Right.
So the principal is not there, but since we're gonna move on a policy, and that's gonna take a couple months, right? Perhaps we need to think about what do we do with your current bulletin board posting, do we have stop posting until we have a policy, or do we keep whatever is on the board until we have a policy? I think we need an interim decision on that.
Mm-hmm. What do people think about that?
I just want to point out, that's not where we are on the agenda. Yeah,
Oh,
13.
yeah, it looks like we're just gonna move into that, announcements and comments. I think can we do that now and then?
Like you want to go back?
No, just I want to move on to 13. I
Right.
think we're good there.
Yeah.
So, again, like I said, I'll start the document and tag you all. You can start putting resources or thoughts there. Sounds like there's going to be some additional conversations even out with Lori. And we're going to continue, we're going to have that as another topic for old business when we return. All right, next one is announcements, comments.
So we'll go to the next meeting, so.
You can read whatever you want. So when we send out the request for comments or content, you can put that there.
Yeah, my thought on this is, I'll speak to some of you guys, so kind of, maybe you gather or get some of the reports and kind of start brainstorming, thinking of ideas of what do we want to see, what do we want to accomplish, how we want this task force to function. Again, my initial thoughts is to be somewhat of a liaison, somewhat of a guidance to parents and connection. Obviously, we have close connection with the principal, and we can bring up stuff directly to her throughout this meeting. So I feel like this is creating this type of a group should allow parents to directly come to us and us maybe be more aware of what's happening, and then keeping the school more accountable for those reports that go out and get better understanding. And then again, if we need to get more support from the CPS and get better policies or better presentations out to the parents that are struggling with this. Again, another problem is providing some materials, how to deal with possibly parents, maybe give them some assistance of how to deal with kids that are either experiencing or they're doing the bullying. So I think there's many stuff we can implement that.
I agree. And I think that, Nicole, not to put more on your plate, but I think these forums have been very helpful. I mean, the first one that we did about the parent groups, I've gotten a lot of emails or even things about these meetings that we're having. Well, I didn't know. And it was refreshing to kind of get that. And similarly for the last forum that we had, I think that's going to be, that was very helpful as well.
I guess, like I usually said, if we can find a way to get parents, like how we got them sitting here, they're advocating, and they're speaking in a large enough number, where they're bringing their concerns here, if we can get that sent out to the parents, like flyers, like suggested, give me the flyers, I'll pass it to every parent I can possibly see out there. I'm here all the time, I see many of them. That never happened, so maybe now we can get that going, where we can actually get something, I know it can't cost that much, to get that done, to get the parents involved, so we can actually know what's going on, we hear the real stories of what's going on, their concerns to parents and these kids. They even have kids that have an opportunity to speak. You might even be surprised if each teacher, I don't know, if we have to figure out the housing, that's why I'm gonna call the court, and I'm gonna go down there, so I can hear from them what can and can't be done, what's allowed, what's not allowed to do, and what the scope is. And you start that, we need to know that, because, we just can't keep sitting here and having all these issues, and they all go together. It all goes together, the parents, their concerns, you're hurting your kids. Kids are getting hurt, parents are getting hurt, it all correlates. It all goes together, so we got to find a way to get the parents to come out more, talking with me, with the teachers, with their kids, share stories, make this, the board is actually going on. We can't deal with all the schools, we gotta worry about here for now. So we just get that done, so we reserve to have to sit here, because we sit here today, we've been talking about bullying the entire year, nothing has been done. And now we're sitting here, this is a form of bullying too, what's going on with that, that's bullying too. And we're sitting here now, we have a whole new issue, so I'm gonna keep growing and growing, and that's, this, for me, and my, it's really ridiculous, it's hurting people, hurting these kids, we expect them to come and perform, educationally, we expect them to perform. How can they if they're suffering in silence? A lot of them are suffering in silence, and there are some parents that actually come and advocate for their kids, like, I miss my kids, so I'm glad you have. I'm glad you guys have what you did. Can't do it.
I agree with you guys in terms of the agency. I'm not a parent yet, but my son is coming here this fall, so I'm ready to get involved, given what I've heard this year. What I'm just asking is one, there seems to be many parent or community groups, creating another group. Obviously, it's up to you guys have been talking about this for a year, thinking through, could it fit within another group, have a larger argument, right? So one thing to think about. And second, I know we have LSC community group and also this community group. What are you guys thinking? Is it kind of sit within the LSC community group or a separate community group? Because they involve in different shows, so you think of that. But I like the agency, my point is do not wait for CPS, do not wait for the government, just you see something that you need fixing, go after it and just fix it. So that's why I do it. So, appreciate it.
I want to add to that too. I just wanted to offer a chat about kind of where this could make sense. Like you might see there's a racial equity parent group that is separate from the equity committee, and that there's like a reason for that and story behind that. And there's a value to this committee sitting under the LLC, and there's also, benefit to it not. So if you want to talk through kind of what that looks like and where it might be, makes sense. I'd be happy to do that.
That makes sense. It brings up another common idea. Since these topics and issues will keep coming up, different topics, different issues, right? Are we going to keep creating a new group, or should we just create a task force group that will look at these? If it takes a year, it takes a year, but that will be the end of the year to figure it out, right? So that's another idea we need to think about. Otherwise, we're going to end up with 20 groups by the end of the year.
So we've created and dissolved LSC committees in the past that have needed. So there were ones that existed in the recent past that no longer exist. Their purpose is over. So I see, ideally that would be happening.
Sorry, my friend, for a government, I'm trying to create less bureaus. So.
You don't say. Any other announcements? Like to remind everyone that next February will be the Argyle Luna Year Parade. Peirce is looking into getting a float. So we appreciate you keeping that in mind. Next item is checking on norms. These meetings are always a learning experience. Like there's always something new that happens. There's always something that we didn't know. But I think I was very lucky to have this group of folks who are not afraid to give their opinion, but they do so in a respectful way. And that also goes to the parents. So I'm personally grateful to be part of the community, and I hope we continue this. This stuff is not easy because every parent has their own opinion, every community, and that changes and there are fluctuations. But all in all, that's why we read the norms. That's why we have the norms, and I really appreciate what we're doing here. So thank you. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. See you next month. To her.
Yeah. Well, I
I think there are other communities where people take more approaches, and I think Peirce is here, that's what it takes, so be complicated. To be complicated, that's just complicated, that's hard conversation. I think I want you to do it the right way. Exactly. The thing I want you to know is that our position is as an organization to figure out the gray areas, to not make decisions, right? And that's what job is. The whole idea of critical thinking, that was just not present, to be honest, in this situation. And that's it. Thank you for having a sensible conversation.
Wasn't my soccer ball comment so